first of all, I just want to say to you, it's such an incredible honor to have you here.
Oh, thank you. It's very mutual. I love what you're saying. I love the idea of being a human being with purpose and meaning in life. And you're a wonderful way of putting it and letting people know that there is a choice, and you really came to this world to let people know that one person can make a difference.
I'm already crying, and it's been 40 seconds. I read your most recent book, and that just the opening chapter was one of the most powerful things I've ever read. And we're going to get into so much of your journey, your story, all the things that you've written, not just your most recent book, but I just want you to know, for whatever it's worth, I just have so much awe and respect for you. I've had so many famous people on this show, and I can't think of a person who's been on this show who I just respect more than you. Um, so
Thank you.
anyway, and just as another piece of my story is I'm Jewish, and your story is obviously extremely close to home. So I just feel so grateful that you're in the world. I can't even put words on it. So let's now begin. All that out of the way. Um, so I don't know if everybody's heard you share your journey. And boy, is it the most important journey I've ever heard in my life. So if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about the story for those who don't know, and then we can start to talk about all of the incredible wisdom that you have extracted from it.
Thank you. Thank you. I am hoping that you and I were put here into this world to give people choices, because the more choices we have, the less we feel like a victim. So that's why don't call me shrink, call me stretch. So I'm going to start at the beginning. I was born in 1927 in Košice, Czechoslovakia. And my mother and father really wanted a son after two girls, and here came a third girl. And what I remember that Magda was the pretty one, and Clara was the talented one, and I became a Durant. And I never really introduced myself by my name. I would say I'm Clara's sister. And then my mother one day looked at me and said, I'm so glad you have brains because you have no looks. So I think that was important for me to kind of become where I will take you to become a very, very highly educated teenager. Um, and the biggest shock was in my life because I was prepared to be a good, very, very good gymnast and Olympic material. And my trainer told me one day I have to train a Jewish girl. I say, no, 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 that's why I'm talking to you. You have to train someone who is a Gentile because you are not qualified. And I think this was the shock of me. I, I, I did nothing but train and train hours and hours a day, and here it came. So that was really the shock of my life as a teenager. And then one thing that I must always say, that unfortunately we have genocide even as we speak, but never in a history of mankind such a scientific and systematic annihilation of people existed. And that's why I am saying that, because 15 highly educated people were celebrating at the end of the day that now they can put 30,000 Jews into the oven. So I am part of that final solution of Eichmann. But I can also tell you that I'm very proud of my ancestors because they were slaves. They were not having a good life. And then it took them more than 40 years to walk on the desert, and they never gave up. So that's the blood you and I carry, that we never give up. And here you are, my colleague telling people, many people can do what you can do, but not the way you can do it. You're one of a kind, and you are doing your calling. And I do too. It's not a job, and we are going to die very happy, not asking what the world has given us, but in what way we could unite people and continue the dialogue, so we can unfortunately form a human family, so we can finally survive on this planet. So I welcome you. I welcome you, and you are so young, and so I want to give you a standing ovation and let you know that the more you suffer, the stronger you become. So you can quote me, I can quote you. I love your idea that purpose is the opposition of depression. I say that the opposite of depression is expression, because what comes out of your body doesn't make you ill. So if you have any secrets, it's good to cry, it's good to get it out, and not to really carry any anger, because you are poisoning actually yourself, and you have to be a good mommy to yourself. So what I say about anger, that is not a primary emotion, but we either vent it, suppress it. In Hungary, we say to women, don't breathe into your breast. Very good, very wise. But I like to dissolve it. And so you and I really saying the same things. I was interviewed by Brene Brown the other day, and he is so precious, but he's from Texas, and I am saying the same thing, but not the same way. You know, her English is
She.
her English is amazingly wonderful, of course, and yet I I say it my way. She has it your way, and you have it your way. But all of us here, all three of us, really say the same thing. How
In
can you acknowledge that no one ever can ever replace you? You're one of a kind. There'll never be another you.
your words are literally like medicine, and your heart is so open and
Yeah.
so loving, and you're such a giant, and it's just unbelievable, the pure, genuine goodness. And I want to talk about, I don't know if people really get the depth of what you're saying if they don't appreciate what you really experienced. And some people, they don't really know much about the Holocaust, or some people, they just turn away because it's too hard, it's too much to listen to. But when you read the book, or if you go to Yad Vashem or anywhere where you can learn, the things that you have witnessed are the absolute darkest possible moments ever. that have taken place in humanity, absolute darkest. And you said in your book, The Gift, which I just read, and I gave it out as a gift to so many people. I said, you have to read this book. You have to read this book. You said something, so many things in that book I just underlined and underlined. But one thing that you say, which is such a huge piece of your work, is you said there came a point later on when I recognized that there was no prison, there was no thing that the Nazis could do to me that was worse than what I could do to myself in my own mind, with my own thoughts, imprisoning myself. Can you talk about that, and what does that mean to you?
I I am many times compared to Anna Frank because she also was with a father who believed in education and studied Latin and Greek. And so many people call me many times that I am the Anne Frank who didn't die. But there is one thing I remember when she said, I'm looking outside and people are killing each other. And I still believe that people are basically good. And I am so grateful to be the Anne Frank who didn't die and let people know that somehow the more we suffer, the stronger you became. We never gave up. And here we are doing everything in our power to prevent good people doing such bad things. Because we're not born bad. We're not born evil. We learn to hate. And that's why I was able to discover my God who guided me to turn hatred to pity. When I looked at those people in the uniforms, that they would pick up children and throwing them into the oven without even gassing them, I thought, how could that happen when people listen to a lie? And I was told every day that I'm never going to get out of here alive because I'm cancer to society. And people didn't know that little Jew, Einstein, came to America and saved America World War II. So you see, we got to question authority rather than blindly adhere to authority. I was just interviewed by a journalist in Budapest, and we talked about their president and what happens and the anti-Semitism that is really just still flourishing. So I will call you an ambassador for peace and goodwill. So I welcome you, my darling, and I'm going to be your grandma. I'm 93. Um, you're, you could be my grandchild, right? How old are you?
41.
41. Yeah, you could be my grandchild easily because my granddaughter, Lindsay, is 43. My daughter is, I'm not going to say anything about age. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. What it matters is how you want to be remembered. And I want to be remembered that I did everything in my power. It's in the Torah, actually, to remember the people so they didn't die in vain. And I and you keep that alive. What can we do to prevent anything like that ever again and catch it before it's too late? So I don't have time to hate, because if I would live in hate, I would still be a prisoner. But that doesn't mean I forget the past or I even overcome it. I don't know that word. I came to terms with it, and I call it my cherished wound, because part of me was left in Auschwitz, but not the better part, not the bigger part. And that's why when I was working with two paraplegics, and I realized that I couldn't take them further than I have gone, then I decided to go back to Auschwitz, and I asked my sister Magda to join me because we lost the whole family, never went to a funeral, and she told me I was an idiot. So we went through the same experience, very different responses. I never mentioned to my sister once again, but I remember that I took care of her. And if you talk to my sister, she will tell you that she took care of me. So now who you gonna believe? Who you gonna believe? But Magda was the pretty one in my family, and Clara was the child prodigy. And I never introduced myself by my name. I would say, I'm Clara's sister, the famous one. And are you the firstborn child or middle child?
I'm the second. I'm the second one. First of all, on top of the fact that you are just such an exquisite human being with so much light, to prove the point of what I'm saying about your goodness, you're one of the only guests who's ever asked me any question, right? Because you are really just this good. Every moment for you is an opportunity to give love to somebody else. And you clearly are not in this moment to do that. You're here because I want to shine a light on you, but that's just who you are. I want to ask you a question because you wrote this whole book. These two books are absolutely, they should be required reading for every human being. They're so magnificent. And what you just said before, which you talk about in both of the books, The Choice and The Gift, is you talk about what you just said, that the story, the narrative, what happened, you did not allow that to get, as you said, the best of you. But having done this show now, and we have like 20 million downloads or something like that, most of the people who listen to this podcast, they hold on to that story. They are victims of their story, and it robs them of their life in the present moment. So tell me about why you then felt compelled to write The Choice, which was the first one, to help people see that they have a choice when they feel
Yes, and
that they don't.
if you tell me that I want to lose weight, and I'm going to tell you what to do and how many calories and so on, and then you come to me and tell me, Edie, I'm tempted to your Hungarian chocolate cake, and I don't know, whatever you tell me to do, I keep cheating. And I'm saying to you, you know what? God gave us temptation. Why? So you can practice the freedom of choice. The cake is just sitting there. It's up to you whether you're going to reach for it or not. So when you ask a child, why do you do that? The kid would say, because I feel like it. Kids don't care about the consequences. As an adult, you still feel like it because God gave us temptation. Why? So you can practice the freedom of choice. So temptation is here to stay as long as you live. It's whether you act upon it or not. It's whether you think with an adult mind that every behavior has a consequence. And what you think, you create. So I ask to think about your thinking and pay attention what you're paying attention to. Any behavior you pay attention to, you reinforce that behavior. So you see, I don't want to think about the pink elephant. You're going to think about the pink elephant. So it's good to decide to say a lot of yes, I am, yes, I can, yes, I win, rather than I don't want this, I don't like that. Not to be against, but to be for, and recognize that the more choices we have, the less we feel ever like a victim. There is no victim without a victimizer.
So
Children,
powerful.
children blame, and while you blame, you're still a child. So you got to be very careful that every behavior satisfies a need and it has secondary gains. Because while I'm a victim, it gives me the entitlement to do nothing. So if I ask a depressed person, what's good about being depressed? And that person tells me, nothing. And then I say very quietly, could it be that when you're depressed, you can get by with less? Maybe you don't have to wash the dishes. Maybe you don't have to see that every behavior satisfies a need. When I'm hungry, I eat. So when people come to me, I diagnose people who come to see me with one word: they are hungry. They either have something what they don't want, or they want something what they don't have. Just make it simple. So I usually say in a Hungarian way, if because I'm a gypsy, and I say, if I had a magic wand and I could give you anything, what would you have what you don't have now? And most people are hungry for affection, hungry for attention, hungry for achievement, and they overeat or overdrink or whatever you do in excess. You come to me that we're going to have a goal, and I call it an arrow, that you follow an arrow. I write constitutions for families. There is no freedom without responsibility. It's anarchy. So if you want to go out this weekend, and this is what you do during the week, and make rules, you gotta have rules. If not, you're gonna have chaos. And everything begins with you. The way you think is what you create. You see, honey, how beautiful it is for you to look at things existentially, that you are, whatever you're doing, it satisfies a need. But now maybe it doesn't work anymore. Now we are locked in. We were told one thing and we found another. And I can be very disappointed and yet never be discouraged, because this is temporary and I don't like it. It's inconvenient and it's temporary and I can survive it. So I say, are you revolving or are you evolving? And you are the guide, honey. The best is yet to be.
Oh my God, you're
It's
so
up to you.
amazing. Everything you're
Yeah,
saying, it just
you do.
it's like listening
You're
to you
doing.
speak. Listening to you speak is like listening to music. It's just
Yeah.
it's beautiful and it's true. And I
That's
think
what my mother told me, that I'm glad you have brains because you have no looks. But I'm not here to be angry at my mother because I became a very highly educated, very erudite
Well, that's
woman.
actually, if what you said was already not the most powerful, impressive words I've ever heard, what's even probably more impressive is that the biggest source of pain that you already touched on, that our listeners have, that I think most humans have, is a feeling of not being enough, not being worthy. And when you say what you just said about how you were told that you had the brains but not the looks, and you're still able, on top of everything you've been through, to stand in a place of worthiness so that your cup is full and you can give to others. How
Mhm.
do you help other people to reclaim a sense of the fact that they would feel worthy when they don't? You said before, if you're here, you're right, Kathy. You said you're telling people the truth. They're needed. People inherently don't believe they're enough to even be needed. That who are they to even add anything to the world? How do you help people with that? Because clearly you've already been able to do that for yourself.
So when people say, I'm a Holocaust survivor, I say, I am a human being who went through an experience, but it's not my identity. It's not who I am. It's what was done to me. Okay? So you don't take things personally. That's what we do. We start defending ourselves of a crime that we never committed. Never, ever defend yourself. You're going to be defeated. So if someone tells you that green crocodiles are walking on that wall, you say, oh, tell me about it. Because love is time. You give time, Time, time. Love is time. When I had a white supremacy boy who joined a man in Texas, his name was David Koresh. You can look him up.
Yeah,
You're too
I know who he
young.
is. Yeah.
Okay. And he said, unfortunately, so many things in so many ways that he had a whole bunch of people following him in Texas. I think the government bombed him after a while and they all died. But I had one of those boys, and he told me that he is a boot boy, and I didn't know what it meant, so I acknowledged his boots. But then he said, he got up, he put his elbow on my desk and said, hey, Doc, it's time for America to be white again. And I'm going to kill all the Jews, all the, using the N word, the Jews, the N word, the Mexicans, and the Chincos. Now, I'm going to tell you the difference between reacting or responding. If I would have reacted, by the time you react, you don't even think what you're doing. It's better to respond rather than react, but we can talk about later. Anyway, when he said that, I went to God and I said, God, people don't come to me, they're sent to me. What do I do with this guy? And God said to me, find the bigot in you. And I said to God, it's impossible. I'm not a bigot. I came to America. I didn't speak English. I worked in a factory. And I went to the bathroom, and one of them said, colored, in 1949. And after Nazi Germany and communist Russia, I'm coming to democracy. And guess what I say? See, love is not what you feel, is what you do. I went to the Black women. They took me to a meeting at NAACP, and they also took me later on in 1963 to Washington, meeting Martin Luther King and singing We Shall Overcome with the mamas and the papas in 1963. So when I talk, I tell you what I lived. So in the book, there is a good one there because one of my patients was a physician. They call me a doctor's doctor. I take care of a lot of physicians because when you go to medical school, you stop growing emotionally. You either medicate or you cut it out. So they have problems with their marriage and so. And the nurse knows that. And then he leaves his wife and goes with the nurse. And the nurse takes over his life and he doesn't even know what happened. So
Oh my
what am I going forward to? I think it's very important to acknowledge that all we have is ourselves for a lifetime. All other relationship ends, and dependency breeds depression a lot of the times. So, what am I saying here? That self-love is self-care. It's not narcissistic. So when you get up in the morning, you look in the mirror and say, I love me. And start the day with a decision because you want to look at life as one day. And I'm at the evening part of my life talking to a 41-year-old and say, I want to be a good role model to you. It's okay to cry because what comes out of your body doesn't make you ill. It's good. It's good. God gave us tears. But look at your tear. Is it angry tears? What kind? What is your tear really telling you about you?
It's so beautiful. I know for me, when I hear something so good, when a person is such goodness, it makes me cry because it's so much truth. My heart can't, you know, it's just it's beyond what words can do, and your words are so good that it's so
Yes.
much love, it's so much grace. You know, you've said the word God 8 times maybe already, maybe more,
I
and
love my God.
me too.
I love my God, is Tinkerbell, the free spirit. People tell me where was God in Auschwitz.
Right. That's what I was going to ask you because it's so easy for people to say, no way, no way. So how do you have that?
God was with me, changing the hatred into pity, feeling sorry for the guards, that they were wearing that uniform, throwing children in a gas chamber. So I can call Auschwitz what you call many things an opportunity. It was an opportunity for an opportunity, for an opportunity to develop. That happiness doesn't come from the outside, that no one makes me happy. I developed my inner resources, and the more I suffered, the stronger I became. You turn tragedy into an opportunity, into a victory. If I would hate, I would still be a prisoner. Why give Hitler another inch? So opportunity for an opportunity, not recovery, but discovery that I have strength, whether I'm going to respond or react. When you react, you don't think. I tell children to take that movie called The Karate Kid, because the best power is brain power. Yeah. So what you think you create, that's very important. And that's what you're saying. And anger, while you are angry, you're bankrupt because you allowed somebody to get to you. It's called trigger. People trigger.
So many of my audience members ask me every day, all day, so what do I do if I want to create a life I love? What steps do I take? How do I make manifest in my life the most incredible purpose-driven business, the most incredible marriage? What do I do? What do I do? And so much for me is thinking about, instead of what do I do, it's how do I be, right? And you were saying what you think about is what you create. So what do you say to someone who says, but just tell me the steps? What are the steps to having a good marriage? What are the steps to building an incredible business? What do you say to them?
One of the things I say in marriage, that you give and take and tolerating differences. That I can be I. If you come with an agenda and you tell me, I know he drinks, but my love is going to make him want to stop drinking. No. So you ask yourself a very simple question: what am I doing now, and is it working? Just be practical. Talk to yourself, because your self-dialogue changes your body chemistry. The way you get up in the morning, look in the mirror, the way you talk to yourself changes your whole day.
Yeah.
That nobody can get to me.
Yeah.
Unless I allow you to come. And I tell you, at 93, when people say he makes me angry, I'm so frustrated, I say, what's good about it? Because any behavior satisfies a need. When I'm hungry, I eat. When I'm thirsty, I drink.
Right.
But you say, don't make me work. Just tell me what to do. And I'm going to say to you, honey, be Jewish, answer a question with a question. Yeah.
It's so good. It's so
Because
good.
that person is your teacher. And the most obnoxious person is your best teacher.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. And about
And
90% of our audience is female and, in relationships and want so much for their husbands. Most of them have husbands, some of them have wives, but for their partners, they want them to see them. They want them to appreciate them. They want them to talk to them, connect with them. And I know for so many women, there's this feeling of this emptiness. I wish he could share this with me, connect with me. And how do
they
they
are
make peace with that?
emotionally starving.
Yeah.
They are emotionally starving. So what happens is that I ask people, don't ever ask, how are you? That's the stupidest things you can ever do. I used to ask my patients, how are you? And they would say, fine. And then I say to myself, you have to change, Edie. The next time they came, I said, geez, good to see you. I missed you. That's what you tell a husband rather than how are you? How was your day? You look a little pale. Let me make you a drink. Are you hungry? No, don't ask any question because you're going to hear a lie. Don't say, why don't you do this? Because that's what we women do. We ask questions or give advice. And then when your child goes to the daddy, why is the moon blue? He says, automatically, go ask your mother. Passes the buck to you. And you have nobody to pass the buck to, so then you become the disciplinarian. And sometimes he calls you the boss, or sometimes even calls you the mother. And sex, is not going to be very good because you don't want to go to bed with a parent or a child. It's incestuous. You want to be a woman to a man. Love yourself. So when you read my book that I divorced my husband. And then I am asked, did you love your husband? And I ask, I love my husband. I was very skinny. I was very lonely. And most of all, I was very hungry. And this guy bought me salami, Hungarian salami. So that's how I married him. And I became either his mother or his child. But you went back to him. No, I did not. I was a woman to a man. I grew up. So don't get married unless you are emotionally and financially independent. And if you don't love yourself, why should I love you? So marry yourself and get rid of words like I always, I never. A woman tells me, I'm never gonna find a man. Edie, I need a man. And I say, if I were a man, I would run from you. You want to be a fireplace that someone wants to get to know you. And so the question is, would you like to be married to you?
So good.
And the other question is, when did your childhood end? Because if you are Jewish and if you're a child of a survivor, your childhood ended very young because you teach your parents how to speak English. You go to the grocery store and you look at Jiffy peanut butter that your parents never even heard of. And then tuna fish, never saw that either. So things are very different for a child who becomes a little adult early on. My little girl was 2 years old. She spoke 4 languages. A patient of mine said that his friend in school has a white Wonder Bread with mayonnaise and bologna. And he had a Kaiser roll with roast beef. And he went home. I want to have white Wonder Bread because he didn't want to be different. So it's really important how you think and how you assimilate into the culture. My husband never really became an American. Nothing was good in America because he lost everything by the communists. But I, wherever I'm planted, I bloom. So maybe your wonderful audience are coming to you because you are the midwife and you guide them to give birth to the true self, because God doesn't make junk. Young people tell me, I love that. You're beautiful just the way you are. So get rid of always, never dead-end words, absolutistic words, and, and give away guilt and worry. Guilt is in the past. Worry is in the future. We mothers worry too much, not realizing that worry is neurotic. Worry doesn't mean you're concerned about that person. It means that you don't trust that other person. We do many, many things in many, many ways, but that's why they come to you, that you can say, how's it working for you? What do you have more of or less of? And you know, like Fiddler on the Roof, on the one hand, on the other hand, men don't grow on criticism. Nobody does. Children don't either. So don't say yes, but say yes, and. You're very beautiful, but you're fat, you're pimply. No but. Yes, and. Because after the but, you cancel everything you said before the but.
And I know a lot of women who listen to this show are people pleasers. I know Rachel Hollis had you on her podcast, and I just had her on my show, and we talked about her recent divorce and how she said, I abandoned myself so many times in the relationship. I could only be myself out of the relationship. But the work, I think, is to learn how to be ourselves in a relationship. And it's sometimes lonelier in a relationship than on your own. It's hard to, especially when you become a woman who starts to love yourself, sometimes you feel you can do a better job on your own. And it's hard to find a way to make it work.
Well, you can ask yourself, when I'm with that person, am I empowered or depleted? Am I stronger with that person than without him? You got to really have a good conversation with you and listen to that voice. Listen to that inner voice and listen to your self-dialogue, because what you think, you create.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to think about it. I don't want, you're going to think about it. But it's up to you whether you hear something and know that this person is triggering something in you. I was listening to a movie called The Miracle Worker the other day, and the miracle worker really is working hard, and one day they run out of water, so she takes the pitcher, and you know, she is the miracle worker is the story of Helen Keller. You know that.
Yeah.
So they go out and get the water, and then she begins to talk the first time and said water that took a while to say it. And that triggered something in me. And I realized that when I was liberated, I didn't know how to write. And it took me months to practice how you write a capital G. Capital G. It's imagine. And you say, oh, I overcame. No, you don't. Don't even think about it, that you overcome. I come to terms with it. It's my cherished wound. I learned in Auschwitz that life is from inside out. No one makes me happy.
Yeah.
I make me happy. And you learn to negotiate and compromise. And this is a good time when we are locked in rather than bitching about what you're not having. But you have time to regroup, to redecide that maybe something needs to be buried. But when you let go of something, you have to replace it with something else.
Mm-hmm.
See, I used to drive a car that had a stick shift, but when I do that, I have to release the clutch. So it's really the question comes up for many people now. What am I holding on to? And using a good English word called willing. What am I willing to risk? That's the best four-letter word. Because when I risk, I put myself out there, I become vulnerable. And there is no intimacy without vulnerability, and nothing blocks intimacy more than a low level chronic anger. So, what women do, they don't want to go to bed tonight and they don't want to go back tonight. But then she says, I should. That's what good wives do. And then she resents the fact she did something what she doesn't like to do. And she fluctuates from guilt to resentment. Not good. Have as many orgasms because it prevents Alzheimer's. That is science.
That's amazing. I've never heard that before.
It's
That's
not your
amazing.
duty as a man. No. And read the book by Nancy Friday, My Mother, Myself, or My Mother, Myself, I think is the name of the book. And she tells the daughter in her wedding, just think of England. There's nothing in it for you, honey. He's gonna do something to you. And later on, he's gonna do something for you. And then later, you're gonna do something with you. Because in America, you say, I love tuna fish and I love this and I love you. But in Greek, we talk about eros, agape, and philia. And that's why I like the young people, because the pioneer woman worked alongside of the husband. And not until the woman became emotionally and financially depending on the man when wife beating began. And I helped to bring about transitional living centers for battered wives. And the woman goes back to the husband as many as 7 to 15 times
Oh my God.
because he brainwashes her that she's nothing without him. It's called the phallocentric view of man. And that's what Freud said, that women are incomplete men because they don't have 6 inches or whatever. There is a very good book by Zilbergerl. It's called Male Sexuality. Very good book for couples to read because we have faulty expectations. That's what happens. Just like Romeo and Juliet, they don't know each other. They don't know their families. And that's why many times the arranged marriage, they meet under the chuppah, they never think about divorce. Maybe murder, but not divorce. Because that, I hear that quite a bit, Murder, yes, no. No
Every
divorce.
every word out of your mouth is like a master class in
Mm.
living. The last thing I'm going to ask you is, I think the biggest thing that I see that trips people up is they're so afraid to be messy, to get something wrong, to fail,
Yeah.
to make a mistake. So they
Perfection.
won't, right? They won't do anything. They won't start a business. They won't write a letter. They won't speak their mind because it could be messy. What do you say to people who are so worried about not getting it perfectly right?
I ask them to really read Gone with the Wind, because when you're a perfectionist, you're going to be like Scarlett O'Hara. There is the war, the Yankees are whatever. And she says, I think about it tomorrow. So when you're a perfectionist, you're going to procrastinate. Don't think about it tomorrow. Don't procrastinate, because the world is going to pass you by. And then you're really going to feel bad. You're going to think people are your enemies. So you're afraid to risk. I'd rather risk and suffer than not risk at all, because no one can reject me but me. I say that over and over again. I was rejected, a girl told me, and she was even suicidal from the University of Texas. I said, so what happened? And she said, I told John that I'm a virgin. And he told me, if no one wanted you, I don't want you either. And here I'm sitting there thinking of my mother, who told me I have something, but she didn't tell me what. I didn't know my anatomy. And this girl was going to take her life. But you know what's wrong? That's based on shoulds. Now I should be this way, and now I should be the other way. They're based on shoulds. Not good. Get rid of the shoulds and know whatever you do is going to have a price tag. And if someone telling you, I don't want you either, you say to yourself a good word, next. Just sit a little Shiva and then move on. Thank God you were saved from whoever he is, but he's not a male. Man, he's a male. And that's what Freud talked about, the phallocentric view of man, that women are incomplete men. And then came Karen Horney, who said, you can build Eiffel Towers, but we women give life. There you. So she gave it to him. And that's how the neo-Freudian, I've been through all of those schools of thought. And it's good to be knowledgeable. And I always studied with people who told me who is their enemy, and then I went to study with the enemy. You got to know all the ways that you can be very knowledgeably eclectic. I can switch horses in mid-gear and you won't know what I'm doing, because what I'm doing is not getting me where I would like to. So it's the perspective that we have. And I learned now over 40 years that I'm doing that what works with one people and one couple, I'm just laying an egg with another. So I have to learn how to be hopefully a knowledgeable guide. And Auschwitz was hell, and I will never minimize it or trivialize it. But many people gave up, and today I beg parents, don't spoil your children. That's what parents do. In America, they spoil children. They buy them toys and toys and more toys. Talk to the child that maybe you put it away, and then we're going to have a bank account that Maybe you can babysit. We will put that money into the bank that the child goes out into the world and makes it without the parents.
Yeah.
You have to divorce your parents and have an adult relationship and pay attention what you take from generation to generation. You can honor your parents, but you don't have to be like them. Be your own good parent. I love what you wear. I love that little sleeve. You're so chic, so preciously young. I love it. I love it. I love it. You're such a good person to guide people, to be free, free at last.
It's actually all because my rabbi told me years ago that the opposite of depression is purpose. And I lived in Jerusalem after college for 2 years, and my rabbi said, we're each a masterpiece, a piece of the master. And I thought, if everybody made something with their own hands, did something, taught something, shared something, they would add to the tapestry of the world what they were here to add, and the world, they would be more fulfilled and they would serve. And so that was my prayer, asking Hashem to help me to do that work.
It's very good to know that rabbis are not smart, they are wise. And wise rabbis, I heard of a rabbi that in Sunday school, he was talking, and one of the students said, I'm sick and tired of your Bible. I want to talk about sex. And guess what?
What?
There's a difference between reacting or responding. And he said, wow, that's a brilliant idea. You may want to go and meet someone, maybe a doctor who also became a sexologist, and we can learn more about human sexuality. That's the rabbi. Rather than I wash your mouth out of soap and the punishment.
Yeah.
I grew up with. I grew up with.
Did you know Rabbis and Esther Youngrice? Did you know Esther Youngrice? Did you know her? She lived in New York. She passed away a few years ago. She was from Hungary, Holocaust survivor. She used to.
Yes,
Esther Youngrice.
yes.
She told me
Yes.
something one day I'll never forget. She said, when I was in the concentration camps, my father would say to pray to be like a rooster. And she said, what did the rooster know? Why? Why pray like a rooster? And she said, because the rooster was the first one on the farm that when it looked like it couldn't get any darker, he crowed and he said, wake up because the light is about to come. So she said, in Judaism, we start the day in the night because it's the beginning of the story. The light is the end.
I was there. I was there with her. I was there. Yes, she was brilliant. She was brilliant.
Brilliant.
I wouldn't mind really truly sitting at the feet of the rabbis who are wise, and they know that whatever you put in, that's what you're going to get out.
Yeah.
And that's how the pudding is going to taste good, or the challah that my mother made like an art piece, and the strudel that she was pulling that dough until it was paper thin. And it wasn't in a kitchen, it was on a dining room table. And then came the cherry and the memories that I hope my children will be very, very happy because my books are on their living room table. So please write your book.
Thank you for being you.
I think you were a wise, beautiful woman of strength.
Eshet Chayil.
Isten áldjon téged. I'm telling you something in Hungarian that God is blessing you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, my darling.
However I can support you, however I can be a light for you, I want to shine
Keep
it.
that in mind. Maybe the two of us can show up and talk to your congregation somewhere, sometime.
Where do you live?
I live in La Jolla. I live in Paradise in San Diego. Yes. Yes. I live in a place where Jews were not allowed to live. And now we have a Chabad rabbi in La Jolla and in Rancho Santa Fe, the Raskins.
Amazing.
Wonderful people.
Well, I've been in LA for 17 years, so maybe one time we're in South Florida for a little while during COVID, but if we're back, maybe somehow I can come down and see you.
We never give up hope.
You're the absolute best. You're like a zillion twinkly lights.
It's just hopefully a wonderful, happy survivor who doesn't care about chronological age. Because when I was 40, my supervisor told me to get a doctorate, and I told him it's impossible. By the time I get a doctorate, I'll be 50. And he said, you'll be 50 anyway. So get a doctorate. That's when I began what you can do too.
It's amazing. Do you still do any counseling? You probably don't have the time because you're so famous and writing books.
Yeah, I am very busy and people want me to be their mentor, and I am limited, but
well, you did it today. You did it today, and you've done it on every show. And
I do it after this. I'm going to talk to UCSD, the University of California in San Diego, and working with psychiatric residents, and the subject is grief. So I'm going to tell them that I spoke to you.
You're amazing. You gave me so much and all of us, and it's such an honor. And Purim is on Thursday, so it's like perfect timing to have this conversation right before Purim. So Chag Sameach.
Wonderful, celebrating with good food and remembering that you carry very good blood, that your ancestors didn't have it as good as you do, but they never gave up. And that's
right.
why you and I are very proud to carry that blood with us and never give up.
Thank you so much. Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you
so much.
Thank you.
Bye.